Go on!
Smeagol!
Pull it in!
Deagle pulls on the rod, but is hauled overboard and disappears under the water with a splash.
Eagle!
Eagle is towed to the riverbed by a large fish. He suddenly lets go of the line, his eyes fixed on a shining gold ring laying under the silt. Deagle climbs out of the water and kneels over onto the riverbank of the Gladden Fields.
Give us that, Deagle, my love.
Why?
Because it's my birthday, and I want it. My precious.
Smeagol descends into madness. His body twists and distorts. He becomes a creeping, shriveled wretch, finally crawling into a dark cave somewhere beneath the misty mountains.
Cursed us, murderer, Eagles. They cursed us and drove us around, and we wept, precious. We wept to be so alone, and we forgot the taste of blood, the sound of trees, the softness of the wind. We forgot our Arendelle. Where it's mine, my love. It came to me. Precious.
In the present, we see a grim landscape covered in thorn bushes and the scars of recent fires. The dark Morgul Valley disappears up toward the mountains.
Wake up! Wake up! Sleepies! We must go, yes! We must go at once!
Haven't you had any sleep, Mr. Frodo? I've gone and had too much. It must be getting late.
No. No, it isn't. It isn't midday yet. Days are growing darker.
Come on! Must go! No times!
Not before Mr. Frodo's had something to eat.
No time to lose, silly!
Here,
What about you?
I'm not hungry. Leastways, not for lembas bread.
Sam.
All right. We don't have that much left. We have to be careful or we're going to run out. You go ahead and eat that, Mr. Frodo. I've rationed it. There should be enough.
For what?
The journey home.
Frodo and Sam follow Gollum as he leads them on the winding, tortuous path, clambering through bracken and over jagged rocks.
Hobbits very close now. Yes, very close to Mordor. No safe places here. Hurry.
The riders of Rohan thunder into the valley of Isengard. Amongst them are the victorious heroes of the Battle of Helm's Deep. The moving forests of Fangorn parts before them, creating an avenue of trees, which allows them to access the old Isengard road. A thick, humid mist fills the forest. They ride forward, and the forest separates to reveal the ruins of Isengard. The stone wall has been splintered into countless jagged shards. Far off, half veiled in the swirling steam, the tower of Orthanc stands, unbroken by the storm. Pale waters lap about its feet. Two small hobbits are sitting on the smashed wall, Merry and Pippin, Spread before them is a feast of breads, meats, and wine. They puff on long pipes as they lie back in the sun.
I feel like I'm back at the Green Dragon after a hard day's work.
Only you've never done a hard day's work. Welcome, my lords, to Isengard.
Oh, you young rascals! A merry hunt you've led us on. Now we find you feasting and mocking.
We are sitting on a field of victory, enjoying a few well-earned comforts. The salted pork is particularly good.
Salted pork?
Hobbits.
We're under orders from Treebeard, who's taken over management of Isengard.
Gandalf and Theoden lead the company through the flotsam and jetsam, which floats upon the muddied waters surrounding the tower, to Treebeard, the giant Ent, as he strides towards them, alarming all but Gandalf.
Brurarum, young Master Gandalf. I'm glad you've come. Wood and water, stock and stone. I can master, but there's a wizard to be managed here. Locked in his tower.
And there he must remain, under your guard, Treebeard.
Let's just have his head and be done with it.
Many men, Theoden King, have made peace after battles. Can we not take counsel as you once did, my old friend? Can we not have peace, you and I?
We shall have peace. We shall have peace when you answer for the burning of the Westfold and the children that lie dead there. We shall have peace when the lives of the soldiers whose bodies were hewn, even as they lay dead against the gates of the Hornburg, are avenged. When you hang from a gibbet for the sport of your own crows, we shall have peace.
Gibbets and crows. Dotard. And what do you want, Gandalf Greyhaim? Let me guess. The key of Orthanc. Or perhaps the keys of Barad-dûr itself. Along with the crowns of the 7 kings and the rods of the 5 wizards.
Your treachery has already cost many lives, and more are now at stake. But you could save them, Saruman. You were once deep in the enemy's council.
So you have come here for information? I have some for you. Something festers in the heart of Middle-earth. Something that you have failed to see. But the Great Eye has seen it. Even now, he presses his advantage. His attack will come soon. You are all going to die. But you know this, don't you, Gandalf? You cannot think that this ranger will ever sit upon the throne of Gondor. This exile, crept from the shadows, will never be crowned king. Gandalf does not hesitate to sacrifice those closest to him, those he professes to love. Tell me, what words of comfort did you give the halfling before you sent him to his doom? The path that you have set him on can only lead death.
Enough! Shoot him! Stick an arrow in his gob!
No! Come down, Saruman, and you will be spared.
Save your pity and your mercy. I have no use for it.
Saruman aims his staff at Gandalf, and a burning torrent of flame flows down from the top of Orthanc and surrounds Gandalf. As the fire dissipates, Gandalf appears from within unharmed.
Saruman, your staff is broken.
Saruman's staff shatters into pieces in his hands. Wormtongue crawls out from behind him.
Grima, you need not follow him. You were not always as you are now. You were once a man of Rohan.
A man of Rohan? What is the house of Rohan but a thatched barn where brigands drink and reek, and their brats roll on the floor with the dogs? Victory at Helm's Deep does not belong to you, Theoden, horse master. You are a lesser son of greater sires.
Grima, come now. Be free of him.
He cannot ever be free.
No!
Saruman, tell us what you know.
You withdraw your jailers, and I will tell you where your doom will be decided. I will not be held prisoner here.
Wormtongue stabs Saruman in the back once, twice. The wizard hardly gasps and then falls off from the top of Orthanc. The palantir slips from his grasp. Legolas fires an arrow at the treacherous Grima, striking him dead.
Oh, the filth of Saruman is washing away. Trees will come back to revere. Young trees, wild trees.
Pippin's eye catches something splash into the water. The muddy waters glow with a golden light. Aragorn turns as quick as a flash. Pippin has jumped off of his horse and picked up the palantir.
Well, bless my beard.
Aragorn took, I'll take that, lad. Quickly now.
The group of riders gallop back toward the Rohan city of Edoras. Eowyn waits alone outside the Golden Hall. Inside, there is a roaring fire, a lamb roasting on a spit, long tables laden with food, barrels of wine. A banquet is laid, ready for the returning soldiers.
Tonight we remember those who gave their blood to defend this country. Hail the victorious dead!
Hail!
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 Amidst the cheering crowd, Eowyn moves toward Aragorn. As she proffers him the chalice, their eyes meet.
Where's to Aragorn, huh?
I am happy for you. He is an honorable man.
You are both honorable men.
It was not Theoden of Rohan who led our people to victory. Don't listen to me. You are young, and tonight is for you.
Hey! Oh, you can search up and down as many lands as can be found.
You'll never find a beer so brown as the one we drink in our hometown.
You can keep your fancy ales, you can drink them by the flagon.
But the only brew for the brave and true
Comes from the Green Dragon. Ah!
Hey.
No news of Frodo?
No word. Nothing.
We still have time. Every day Frodo moves closer to Mordor.
Do we know that?
What does your heart tell you?
That Frodo is alive. Yes. He is alive.
Back in the Morgul Vale, we see them mostly alive, Frodo and Sam lying asleep amidst shrubby bushes near a stagnant pool. Smeagol lies nearby, muttering in his sleep.
You're risky. You're risky. Wolves have stolen from us. Kill them. Kill them. Kill them both. No! Mustn't ruin it now. They knows. They knows. They suspect us. But saying my precious is Smeagol losing his nerve. No! Not! Never! Smeagol hates nasty hobbitses. But we must get the precious. We must. Patience. Patience, my love. First, we must lead them to her. We lead them to the winding stairs. Yes, the stairs. And then, up the stairs we'll go until we come to the tunnel. And when they go in, there's no coming out. She's always hungry. She always needs to feed. She must eat. All she gets is filthy oxes. And they don't taste very nice, does they, precious? No. It's not nice at all, my love. Yes, for sweeter meats. Hobbit meat. And when she throws away the bones and the empty clothes, then we will find it and take it for me! For us. Yes, it was meant for us. Yes. The precious will be ours once the hobbitses are dead.
You treacherous little toad!
No! No! Help, master!
Sam, leave him alone!
I heard it from his own mouth! He means to murder us!
Never! Smeagol wouldn't hurt a fly. He's a horrid, fat hobbit who hates Smeagol and makes up nasty lies.
You miserable little maggot! I'll stove your head in! Call me a liar. You're a liar!
Sam, if you scare him off, we're lost.
I don't care! I can't do it, Mr. Frodo. I won't wait around for him to kill us.
I'm not sending him away.
You don't see it, do you? He's a villain.
We can't do this by ourselves, Sam. Not without a guide. I need you on my side.
I'm on your side, Mr. Frodo.
I know, Sam. I know. You must trust me. Come, Smeagol.
Back in the comfort of Edoras, Aragorn joins Legolas on the steps to the Golden Hall, oblivious to the chill wind. They look out across the sleeping city to the looming mountain range beyond. Dark clouds mark the sky.
The stars are veiled. Something stirs in the east, a sleepless malice. The eye of the enemy is moving.
Meanwhile, inside Edoras, Pippin is lying wide awake. Suddenly, she hops out of bed and creeps past Merry toward the sleeping form of Gandalf.
What are you doing? Pippin! 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 What are you doing? Pippin, are you mad?
Look at just
Put it back! Put it back! Pippin! Pippin!
On the steps of the Golden Hall, Legolas turns to Aragorn.
He is here.
The great eye of Sauron seems to leap from the fire. Pippin is bathed in the fiery red light.
Help! Someone help him!
Aragorn bursts in and wrenches the palantir from Pippin's hands and then spins away, reeling backwards. The palantir falling from his hands, it rolls across the floor, causing everyone in the room to cower back. Gandalf throws a blanket over it.
Fool of a took!
Pippin!
Gandalf, forgive me.
Look at me. What did you see?
A tree that there was a white tree in a courtyard of stone, and it was dead. The city was burning.
Minas Tirith. Is that what you saw?
I saw him. I could hear his voice in my head.
What did you tell him? Speak!
He asked me my name. I didn't answer. He hurt me.
What did you tell him about Frodo and the ring?
Later, Theoden stands in the Golden Hall, gravely listening to Gandalf. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli look on.
There was no lie in Pippin's eyes. A fool, but an honest fool he remains. He told Sauron nothing of Frodo and the ring. We've been strangely fortunate. What Pippin saw in the Palantir was a glimpse of our enemy's plan. Sauron moves to strike the city of Minas Tirith. His defeat at Helm's Deep showed him but one thing. The heir of Elendil has come forth. Men are not as weak as he supposed. There is courage still, strength enough left to challenge him. Sauron fears this. He will not risk the peoples of Middle-earth uniting under one banner. He will raze Minas Tirith to the ground before he sees the return of the king. If the beacons of Gondor are lit, Rohan must be ready for war.
Tell me, why should we ride to the aid of those who did not come to ours? What do we owe Gondor?
I will go.
No.
They must be warned.
They will be. You must come to Minas Tirith by another road. Follow the river. Look to the black ships. Understand this. Things are now in motion that cannot be undone. I ride for Minas Tirith, and I won't be going alone.
Gandalf hurries along the streets. Pippin and Merry run alongside, trying to keep up.
Of all the inquisitive hobbits, Peregrine Took, you are the worst. Hurry! Hurry!
Where are we going?
Why did you look? Why do you always have to look?
No, I can't help it.
You never can.
I'm sorry, all right? I won't do it again.
Don't you understand? The enemy thinks you have the ring. He's going to be looking for you, Pip. They have to get you out of here.
And you're coming with me. Merry?
Come on.
Pippin is dumped unceremoniously onto the back of Shadowfax as Gandalf hurriedly prepares to leave.
How far is Minas Tirith?
3 days' ride as the Nazgul flies, and you'd better hope we don't have one of those on our tail.
Here, something for the road.
The last of the Longbottom leaf.
I know you've run out. You smoke too much, Pip.
But we'll see each other soon. Won't we?
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
Mary?
Run, Shadowfax. Show us the meaning of haste.
Mary!
Shadowfax thunders out of the stables. The Lord of all horses carries Gandalf and Pippin out of the gate and down the winding road toward the plains of Rohan. Merry clambers up a watchtower, Aragorn in pursuit. Merry watches his best friend disappear into the distance. Far away from the troubles of the rest of Middle-earth, Arwen travels through a dark pine forest toward the Grey Havens. She is escorted by a small entourage of elves.
Take her by the safest road. A ship lies anchored in the Grey Havens. It waits to carry her across the sea. The last journey of Arwen Undomiel.
As Arwen rides through the forest, the figure of a small boy of about 5 suddenly runs across the path in front of her. Arwen reins in her horse.
As I watch the child move away, the trees begin to thin. One by one, the trees melt away into the tall white pillars of Minas Tirith. What a majestic city to behold even in a vision. I watch a silhouetted figure in the distance run to the boy. The silhouette holds his arms aloft and the boy jumps into them. And when it turns to me, I see my love, with gray streaks in his hair and beard. My beloved Aragorn, dressed in the casual finery of a Gondorian noble. The child looks directly at me. Around his neck, I spied my even star.
Arwen, there is nothing for you here, only death.
Lady Arwen, we cannot delay.
Arwen wheels her horse around, riding away.
My lady!
Arwen's horse gallops over the bridge and through the gates into Rivendell. Elrond sits alone on his balcony. Arwen runs up to the steps towards him.
What did you see?
Arwen.
You have the gift of foresight. Tell me what you have seen.
I looked into the future and I saw death.
There is also life. You saw there was a child. You saw my son.
The future is almost gone.
But it is not lost.
Nothing is certain.
Some things are certain. If I leave him now, I will regret it forever. But it is time. From the ashes, a fire shall be woken. A light from the shadow shall spring. Renewed shall be the blade that was broken. The crownless again shall be king. Reforge the sword. Ada.
Your hands are cold. The life of the Eldar is leaving you. It has begun.
This was my choice. Ada, whether by your will or not, there is no ship now that can bear me hence.
A broken sword glows with red heat, its blade in several fragments. A heavy hammer pounds the red-hot blade on an anvil. As elven smiths temper the steel, Elrond's face is lit by flickering fire as sparks fly in the Rivendell forge. Shadowfax powers along the countryside. Pippin is huddled in front of Gandalf, the wind sailing through his hair.
We have just passed into the realm of Gondor.
Shadowfax gallops up onto a low ridge. Before them is the dark mass of Mount Manduilin, its tall white face whitening in the rising sun. Upon its outthrust knee is the guarded city, Minas Tirith, with 7 walls of white stone, so strong and old that it seems to have not been built. Minas Tirith looks carven by giants out of the bones of the earth.
Minas Tirith, city of the kings.
Suddenly the sun climbs over the eastern hills and sends forth a shaft of sunlight that gleams against the face of the city. The Tower of Ecthelion stands high within the topmost walls. White banners break and flutter from the battlements in the morning breeze. Gandalf steers Shadowfax up the steep streets of Minas Tirith. Frightened Gondorians stare as Gandalf and Pippin gallop through the winding streets. Minas Tirith is built in 7 levels, each behind a circular defensive wall. Each level rises, the city reaching a height of nearly 1,000 feet on its topmost level. A towering bastion of natural rock, shaped like a sharp ship's prow, bisects the city from the 2nd level all the way to the top. Shadowfax arrives at the great citadel on the summit of the city, 1,000 feet above the Pelennor fields. Pippin takes in his surroundings, his eye caught by the dead tree that stands in the middle of the court. 4 solemn citadel guards stand sentry around it.
It's the tree. Gandalf! Gandalf!
Yes, the white tree of Gondor, the tree of the king. Lord Denethor, however, is not the king. He is steward only, a caretaker of the throne. Now listen carefully. Lord Denethor is Boromir's father. To give him news of his beloved son's death would be most unwise. And do not mention Frodo or the ring. And say nothing of Aragorn either. In fact, it's better if you don't speak at all, Peregrine Took.
They enter the long, solemn hall with rows of black marble pillars. Between the pillars stand a company of tall kings carved in cold stone. At the far end, upon a dais of many steps, sits a large, empty throne, and on the wall is the image of a flowering white tree set in gems. At the foot of the dais, in a small stone chair, sits an old man gazing at his lap. Denethor, the Lord Steward of Gondor.
Hail Denethor, son of Ecthelion, Lord and Steward of Gondor. I come with tidings in this dark hour, and with counsel.
Perhaps you come to explain this. Perhaps you come to tell me why my son is dead.
Boromir died to save us. My kinsman and me. He fell, defending us from many foes.
Pippin!
I offer you my service, such as it is, in payment of this debt.
Get up. My lord, there will be a time to grieve for Boromir, but it is not now. War is coming. The enemy is on your doorstep. As steward, you are charged with the defense of this city. Where are Gondor's armies? You still have friends. You are not alone in this fight. Send word to Theoden of Rohan. Light the beacons.
You think you are wise, Mithrandir. Yet for all your subtleties, you have not wisdom. Do you think the eyes of the White Tower are blind? I have seen more than you know. With your left hand, you would use me as a shield against Mordor, and with your right hand, you would seek to supplant me. I know who rides with Theoden of Rohan. Oh yes, word has reached my ears of this Aragorn, son of Arathorn, and I tell you now, I will not bow to this ranger from the north, last of a ragged house, long bereft of lordship.
Authority is not given to you to deny the return of the king, steward.
The rule of Gondor is mine, and no others.
Come.
Pippin carefully lays out a small uniform of the royal guard on a bed. Gandalf stands quietly on a balcony overlooking the city.
So I imagine this is just a ceremonial position. I mean, they don't actually expect me to do any fighting, do they?
You're in the service of the steward now. You're going to have to do as you're told, Peregrine Took. Guardians in the Citadel, indeed.
So quiet.
It's the deep breath before the plunge.
I don't want to be in a battle. But waiting on the edge of one I can't escape is even worse. Is there any hope, Gandalf? For Frodo and Sam?
There never was much hope. Just a fool's hope. Our enemy is almost ready. His full strength gathered. Not only orcs, but men as well. Legions of Haradrim from the south, mercenaries from the coast. All will answer Mordor's call. This will be the end of Gondor as we know it. Here the hammer stroke will fall the hardest. If the river is taken, if the garrison at Osgiliath falls, the last defense of this city will be gone.
But we have the White Wizard. That's got to count for something. Gandalf?
Sauron has yet to release his deadliest servant, the one who will lead Mordor's armies in war, the one they say no living man can kill, the Witch King of Angmar. You've met him before. He stabbed Frodo on Weathertop. He is the Lord of the Nazgul, the greatest of the Nine, and Minas Morgul is his lair.
Frodo and Sam clamber into a small gully beside a rough-hewn road. They peer over the lip of the gully into Minas Morgul, a massive dead city set upon a rocky knee at the head of the Morgul Valley. Corrupt and loathsome, it glows with a sickly, luminous light, like a corpse candle. Two huge, bestial stone statues guard the bridge that leads to the city.
Come a well. Look, I found it.
Frodo and Sam look aghast at the sight of a narrow, near-vertical staircase cut into the rock face, directly in front of the Minas Morgul gates. It is barely hidden by twisted vines and sharp rocks.
The well under Mordor.
Their eyes follow the stairs higher and higher up the sheer western side of the Morgul Valley to the high peaks of the razor-like mountains of Mordor.
Secret stairs. Climb.
Suddenly, Frodo staggers across the road as if some force other than his own will is at work. He lurches toward the bridge, towards Minas Morgul.
No, Mr. Frodo.
Not that well! What's it doing?
No!
They're calling me.
The ground quivers and a great rumbling noise rolls across the ground and echoes in every mountaintop. The dull, cold Morgul Valley is suddenly violent and fierce as uprushing flame springs from Mount Doom. Minas Morgul answers. A flare of livid lightning, forks of green flames spring up from the tower into the sullen clouds above. Violent fiery flashes of light come to the clouds above Mordor. Sharp thunder rolls across 40 miles to Minas Tirith. Back at the source of the terror, Sam and Gollum lead Frodo to the stairs. The sky above Minas Morgul is bright with lightning flashes.
Hold! Hold!
Across the narrow valley, directly opposite the hobbits, the Lord of the Nine, the Witch King, rises up out of the dead city on his fell beast. As the Witch King settles on the battlements of Minas Morgul, his dark head turns this way and that, sweeping the shadows with unseen eyes as if sensing the ring. Frodo breaks out into a cold sweat. He squeezes his eyes shut, pinching his shirt.
I can feel his blade!
The cavernous gate of Minas Morgul swings open, and a huge army marches out. Rank upon rank of armor-clad orcs, moving swiftly and silently, passing close to Frodo and Sam in an endless stream of ragged columns.
We come to it at last. The great battle of our time.
75,000 orcs march to war just below Frodo and Sam.
This war is long planned. Sauron has hated the West through many ages. It is a hatred that flows through the depths of time, across the deeps of the sea.
The Witch King swoops down the valley to join the head of his army. He vanishes into the gloom, a shadow into shadow.
Come on, Frodo. Wait for me.
Frodo, Sam, and Gollum climb the stony stairs high above the marching army. Back in Minas Tirith, Gandalf is thinking, calculating.
The board is set. The pieces are moving.
Gandalf strides the back streets of the city. So determined and purposeful is he that Pippin has to run to keep up. Gandalf suddenly stops and looks down at Pippin.
Peregrine Took, my lad, there is a task now to be done. Another opportunity for one of the Shire folk to prove their great worth. You must not fail me.
On the nearby river Anduin, we see an ancient stone bridge which spans the ruins of East and West Osgiliath, a once mighty Gondorian city. Ithilien rangers patrol the bridge and the riverbank. West Osgiliath has fallen into disrepair, but the desolation of East Osgiliath is more pronounced. It is held by the forces of Mordor. Many boats carrying murderous-looking orcs are quietly tracing down the river towards West Osgiliath. On board, several hunched figures steer with long oars.
Quiet.
In West Osgiliath, we see Faramir, captain of Gondor, as he issues orders to his soldiers.
The river, quick!
Ithilien rangers take position. They are all withered, hardened, professional soldiers, watchful, ready, waiting.
Faster! Draw swords!
Faramir and his soldiers lie in wait. As the boats arrive, hundreds of orcs race ashore. Faramir steps out, his sword drawn. A fierce battle ensues, but Faramir is unable to stop the advance as hundreds of orcs cross the wide bridge into West Osgiliath. In the distance, far above and away from the battle, Pippin gets a dizzying view. Looking down on Minas Tirith, 1,000 feet below, Pippin desperately scrambles up the rocky mountainside. Pippin clambers over a rocky ledge and ducks behind a stone wall, panting heavily. An ancient stone ledge holds a great pile of firewood, secured in stacked bundles. The Minas Tirith beacon. 2 bored citadel guards sit chatting, passing the long hours. Pippin stealthily manages to pour oil over the wood and set a flame to it. Within seconds, the great pyre is alight. The guards look on in total surprise as the flames erupt into the twilight sky.
Is kindled. Mundine, come on.
The beacon at Amundine is lit!
Gandalf looks on as hope is rekindled.
Beacons of Minas Tirith. The beacons are lit! Gondor calls for aid!
Rohan will answer. Muster the Rohirrim.
On the Edoras lookout, a soldier rings the great bell in alarm as below in the courtyard soldiers mount their steeds amid great activity. Theoden strides purposefully outside, flanked by Éomer and his soldiers.
Assemble the men at Dunharrow, as many men as can be found. You have 2 days. On the 3rd, we ride for Gondor. End war. Gamling, make haste across the Riddermark. Summon every able-bodied man to Dunharrow.
Theoden watches as the soldiers prepare. Eowyn hurriedly pulls on riding gloves, preparing to mount her horse.
You ride with us?
Just to the encampment. It's tradition for the women of the court to farewell the men.
Is it tradition for the women to come armed for battle?
The men have found their captain. They will follow you into battle, even to death. We've given us hope.
So, it is before the walls of Minas Tirith that the doom of our time will be decided.
Now is the hour. Riders of Rohan, oaths you have taken. Now, fulfill them all for lord and land.
Theoden is astride his horse, Snowmane. He, Éomer, Aragorn, and Merry, Legolas, and Gimli ride out amid a great column of Rohirrim thundering toward Dunharrow in the mountains. Back in Osgiliath, Faramir and his men are fighting a losing battle against the Mordor invasion.
The city is lost.
Tell the men to break up. We ride from Minas Tirith.
Ominous sounds of wind rises, huge wings beating.
Nazgul!
Faramir looks up at the sky. The Ithilien rangers are suddenly nervous, frightened. A huge shadow passes overhead.
Take cover! Pull back! Pull back to Minas Tirith!
A terrifying shriek rends the air as the Witch King descends. Soldiers retreat through the ruins of the city as high in the sky above the Nazgul swoop. Madril is cut down by an orc. The hideously deformed features of Gothmog stand over the prone figure of the injured ranger. Grabbing a spear from a nearby underling, Gothmog drives the shaft into Madril's chest.
The age of men is over. The time of the orc has come.
Faramir and a few survivors flee West Osgiliath, desperately riding towards Minas Tirith. In the sky above, dark shapes pursue them. Suddenly, from on high, the Nazgul swoops out of the low-lying, murky clouds, tossing men into the air like limp ragdolls. At that moment, across the plain, a figure cloaked in white rides towards them.
A White Rider!
Gandalf spurs Shadowfax forward. Pippin clings tightly to the great horse's mane. Faramir, sword in hand, remains at the rear, trying desperately to fend off the deadly assault. A shaft of white light suddenly stabs upward. The Nazgul swerves away from the light as it pierces the low cloud. Sunlight streams through the hole into Pelennor Fields. The Nazgul circle away from the sun rays, swiftly spiraling higher and higher. With the Nazgul driven off, Gandalf and the Rangers ride toward the safety of Minas Tirith. Eolas runs towards the gates, yelling,
"Open the gates! Pull!"
The great gates open, allowing Gandalf, Pippin, Faramir, and the Osgiliath survivors to ride inside. Nearly 100 wounded and shocked men.
Mithrandir.
Faramir steers his horse through the crowd toward Gandalf.
They broke through our defenses. They have taken the bridge and the west bank. Battalions of orcs are crossing the river.
It is as the Lord Denethor predicted. Long has he foreseen this doom.
Foreseen and done nothing. Faramir, this is not the first halfling to have crossed your path.
No.
You've seen Frodo and Sam?
Where? When?
In Ithilien. Not 2 days ago. Gandalf, they are taking the road to the Morgul Vale.
And then the pass of Cirith Ungol.
What does that mean? What's wrong?
Faramir, tell me everything.
Frodo and Sam follow Gollum up the dizzying stairway, carved into the sheer cliff. The steps are narrow, unevenly spaced, and many are broken. They are so steep that Frodo and Sam climb as if on a ladder, their desperate fingers clinging to the steps above, trying not to look at the long black fall below them. Frodo's foot slips and for a brief moment he is hanging precariously from the rock face.
Never, master. There is far to fall. Very dangerous on the stairs. Come, master.
Frodo tries to clamber up onto the ledge, and as he does, the ring slips out of his shirt and dangles in full view of Gollum.
Come to Smeagol.
Mr. Frodo! Get back, you! Don't you touch him!
Why does he hate poor Smeagol? What has Smeagol ever done to him? Master. Master carries a heavy burden. Smeagol knows. Heavy burden. That one cannot know. Smeagol looks after Master. He wants it. He needs it. Smeagol sees it in his eyes. Very soon, he will ask you for it. The fat one will take it from you.
High above Osgiliath, the Witch King, seated on a fell beast, stands near Gothmog, awaiting his orders. The Witch King speaks in a terrible voice, as Gothmog, who has heard it before, looks out over the troops.
Send forth our legions. Do not stop the attack until the city is taken. Slay them all.
What of the wizard?
I will break him.
Gondorian soldiers upon the Minas Tirith battlements are struck with anxiety and cluster around Gandalf looking for comfort.
What of Theoden's riders? Will Rohan's army come? Mithrandir?
Courage is the best defense that you have now.
Pippin, dressed in oversized armor, kneels before Denethor.
Here, do I swear fealty and service to Gondor, in peace or war, in living or dying, from this hour henceforth, until my lord release me, or death take me.
And I shall not forget it, nor fail to reward that which is given. Fealty with love, valor with honor, and disloyalty with vengeance.
Denethor crosses to a great table. Attendants begin serving him a meal.
I do not think we should so lightly abandon the outer defenses. Defenses that your brother long held intact.
What would you have me do?
I will not yield the river and Pelennor unfought. Osgiliath must be retaken.
My lord, Osgiliath is overrun.
Much must be risked in war. Is there a captain here who still has the courage to do his lord's will?
You wish now that our places had been exchanged? That I had died and Boromir had lived?
Yes, I wish that.
Since you were robbed of Boromir, I will do what I can in his stead. If I should return, Father, think better of me.
That will depend on the manner of your return.
High above Minas Morgul, on a small ledge next to the stairs, lie the figures of Frodo, Sam, and Gollum. Sam watches a sleeping Gollum suspiciously as he desperately tries to stay awake. Slowly, inevitably, Sam falls asleep.
What are you up to? Sneaking off, are we?
Sneaking. Fat hobbits is always so polite. Smeagol shows them secret wells that nobody else could find. And they say, sneak. Sneak! Very nice front. Oh yes, my precious. Very nice indeed.
All right. You just startled me is all. What were you doing?
Sneak.
Fine, have it your own way. Sorry to wake you, Mr. Frodo. We have to be moving on.
Dark still.
It's always dark here. It's gone. The elven bread.
What? That's all we have left?
He took it. He must have.
Smeagol! No, not poor Smeagol. Smeagol hates nasty elf bread.
You're a lying wretch. What did you do with it?
He doesn't eat it. He can't have taken it.
What's this? Crumbs on his jacket set. He took it! He took it! I see them. He's always stuffing his face when Master's not looking.
That's a filthy lie! You stinking, two-faced sneak! I'll kill him! I'll kill him!
No, Sam!
All right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to go so far. I was angry. Here, let's rest up a bit.
I'm all right.
Oh. Well, you're not all right. You're exhausted. It's that Gollum. It's this place. It's that thing around your neck. I could help a bit. I could carry it for a while. Share the load.
Get away!
I don't want to keep it. Just want to help.
See, he wants it for himself.
Shut up, you. Go away. Get out of here.
No, Sam. It's you. I'm sorry, Sam.
What? He's a liar. He's poisoned you against me.
You can't help me anymore.
You don't mean that.
Go home.
Frodo and Gollum leave Sam behind. Sam is in complete misery. Back in Minas Tirith, Faramir leads a column of 200 knights through the streets towards the city gate. People are rushing forward, throwing flowers over the knights and in the streets. Gandalf hurries alongside Faramir's horse, trying to get his attention. Sunlight glints off of the soldiers as they head towards the gate in an impossible task to try to take a city back from several thousand orcs armed to the teeth at every wall. The people around wear faces of grimness.
Faramir, your father's will has turned to madness. Do not throw away your life so rashly.
Where does my allegiance lie, if not here?
Your father loves you, Faramir, and will remember before the end.
Faramir leads the 200 mounted knights through the gates of Minas Tirith and across the Pelennor fields towards the ruins of Osgiliath. The people of Minas Tirith watch from the battlements. Faramir's knights fan out to form one straight line of 200 horsemen. Gothmog and his orcs watch as the knights approach. Within the tower hall of Minas Tirith, Pippin looks on as Denethor eats.
Can you sing, Master Hobbit?
Well, yes, at least well enough for my own people. But we have no songs for great halls and evil times. We seldom sing of anything more terrible than wind or rain.
And why should your songs be unfit for my halls, nor for hours such as these? Come, sing me a song.
Home is behind, the world ahead, and there are many paths to tread, through shadow to the edge of night, until the stars are all alight. Mist and shadow, cloud and shade, all shall fade, all shall fade.
The 200 mounted knights charge toward Osgiliath. Gothmog raises amidst the ruins and raises his bow. Behind Gothmog, all over the ruined city, 5,000 orc archers rise to their feet, arrows already strung on their bows. Faramir's knights ride straight into the black wall of flying arrows. As one, the horses and horsemen are collapsed into a cartwheeling, tumbling heap. Within seconds, all are motionless.
All shall fade.
Across the river in Osgiliath, great siege towers and catapults are rolled along the repaired bridge which spans both sides of the city. They head straight towards Minas Tirith. Back in the land of Rohan, the army has reached the mountains of Dunharrow. Aragorn, Theoden, Éomer, Merry, Legolas, and Gimli gallop into a vast camp beneath the cover of trees, teeming with men, horses, and tents.
Éomer, how many?
I bring 500 men from the Westfold, my lord.
We have 300 more from Fenmarch, Theoden King.
Where are the riders from Snowburn?
None have come, my lord.
Aragorn joins Theoden on a bluff overlooking the encampment below. Thousands of men and horses. Smoke from many small campfires has filled the valley in a twilight haze.
6,000 spears. Less than half of what I'd hoped.
6,000 will not be enough to break the lines of Mordor.
More will come.
Every hour lost hastens Gondor's defeat. We have till dawn, then we must ride.
The horses whinny loudly in the distance. Theoden looks up at the mountain which looms behind them. Horses are rearing in terror as soldiers try to quiet them. Legolas and Gimli move through the camp. Legolas looks at a group of Rohan soldiers who sit quiet and hunched, no one speaking.
The horses are restless, and the men are quiet.
They grow nervous in the shadow of the mountain.
Gimli's eyes travel to a row of ancient standing stones that mark the entrance to a road leading away from the encampment and into the mountain.
That road there, where does that lead?
It is the road to the Demolt, the door under the mountain.
None who venture there ever return. That mountain is evil.
Aragorn stands before the road as though transfixed. Before him, a horse whinnies and pulls at his ropes nervously. A ghostly figure seems to emerge from the gloom.
Aragorn! Let's find some food.
Aragorn casts another look back at the ancient standing stones before following Gimli. At dusk, all is quiet in the encampment. Within Eowyn's tent, she kneels before Merry, adjusting his helmet strap.
There, a true esquire of Rohan. Oh!
Sorry, it isn't all that dangerous. It isn't even sharp.
Well, that's no good. You won't kill many orcs with a blunt blade. Come on.
As Éowyn and Merry leave the tent, Éomer and Gamling are sitting nearby finishing a meal. Éowyn ushers Merry off.
To the smithy. Go.
You should not encourage him.
You should not doubt him.
I do not doubt his heart, only the reach of his arm.
Why should Merry be left behind? He has as much cause to go to war as you. Why can he not fight for those he loves?
You know as little of war as that hobbit. When the fear takes him, and the blood, and the screams, and the horror of battle take hold, do you think that he would stand and fight? He would flee, and he would be right to do so. War is the province of men, Eowyn.
At the plateau's edge, a guard looks down the steep precipice as a horse and rider move along the ridge. By the edge of the Dunharrow tracks, Aragorn tosses in his sleep, disturbed by images and voices.
To the black ships.
I choose a mortal life. I wish I could have seen him one last time.
As Arwen lies dying, the even star falls from her fingers. At that moment, Aragorn wakes, his sword quickly in his hand. A guard stands in the doorway.
Theoden King awaits you, my lord.
Aragorn hurries towards Theoden's tent. Theoden looks up as Aragorn enters. A hooded figure stands nearby.
I take my leave.
My lord Elrond.
I call on behalf of one whom I love. Arwen is dying.
She stayed?
She will not long survive the evil that now spreads from Mordor. The light of the even star is failing. As Sauron's power grows, her strength wanes. Arwen's life is now tied to the fate of the ring. The shadow is upon us, Aragorn. The end has come.
It will not be our end, but his.
You ride to war, but not to victory. Sauron's armies march to Minas Tirith. This you know. But in secret, he sends another force which will attack from the river. A fleet of corsair ships sails from the south. They'll be in the city in 2 days. You're outnumbered, Aragorn. You need more men.
There are none.
There are those who dwell in the mountain.
Murderers, traitors. You would call upon them to fight? They believe in nothing. They answer to no one.
They will answer to the King of Gondor. Anduril, flame of the west, forged from the shards of Narsil.
Sauron will not have forgotten the sword of Elendil. The blade that was broken shall return to Minas Tirith.
The man who can wield the power of this sword can summon to him an army more deadly than any walks this earth. Put aside the ranger. Become who you were born to be. Take the Dimalt road. I give hope to men.
I keep none for myself.
Aragorn readies Brago for leaving. Éowyn approaches.
Why are you doing this? The war lies to the east. You cannot leave on the eve of battle. You cannot abandon the men. We need you here.
Why have you come?
Do you not know?
It is but a shadow and a thought that you love. I cannot give you what you seek.
Aragorn leads his horse through the tents towards the dim old road.
Just where do you think you're off to?
Not this time. This time you must stay, my friend.
Have you learnt nothing of the stubbornness of dwarves?
Oh, you might as well accept it, laddie. We're going with you.
Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli slowly ride toward the back of the plateau, past the ancient standing stones that lead to the narrow pass. Theoden and Gamling watch the retreating figures of Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli. Rohan's soldiers emerge from their tents, crestfallen to see that Aragorn is leaving. The Rohan soldiers murmur amongst themselves, "What's happening? Where is he going?"
Lord Aragorn!
Why does he leave on the eve of battle?
He leaves because there is no hope.
He leaves because he must.
Too few have come. We cannot defeat the armies of Mordor.
No, we cannot. But we will meet them in battle nonetheless.
At dawn, Theoden looks at Eowyn, who stands as if turned to stone. She is looking up at a lightening sky, the quiet before the men depart for war.
I have left instruction. The people are to follow your rule in my stead. Take up my seat in the Golden Hall. Long may you defend Edoras if the battle goes ill.
What other duty would you have me do, my lord?
Duty? No. I would have you smile again, not grieve for those whose time has come. You shall live to see those days renewed. No more despair.
Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli make their way up a gloomy canyon shadowed by black fir trees. The shadowed ridges of the Dwimmerberg mountain rise before them.
What kind of army would linger in such a place?
One that is cursed. Long ago, the men of the mountain swore an oath to the last king of Gondor to come to his aid, to fight. But when the time came, when Gondor's need was dire, they fled, vanishing into the darkness of the mountain. And so Isildur cursed them, never to rest until they had fulfilled their pledge.
Silence surrounds them. There are no birds, no wind, only the ominously muffled thud of their horses' hooves on the dank fir needles. Before them, at the root of the mountain, a sheer rock wall towers.
The very warmth of my blood seems stolen away.
Within the walls, a dark door gapes like a mouth of night. Signs and figures are carved above its wide arch.
The way is shut. It was made by those who are dead, and the dead keep it. The way is shut.
A chill wind seems to rush out of the doorway. Aragorn stares into the blackness, his hair blowing wildly. The horses rear and buck in terror, turning and galloping away.
Vega!
I do not fear death.
Oh, this is a thing unheard of. An elf will go underground, but a dwarf dare not. Oh, never hear the end of this.
Back at Theoden's encampment, horns sound. The entire camp is on the move. Fires are doused, tents pulled down, horses saddled. Theoden strides through the camp, Éomer at his side.
We must ride light and swift. It's a long road ahead, and men and beast must reach the end with the strength to fight.
Merry prepares a little pony with a saddle and supplies. He's wearing an oversized helmet and Rohirrim clothing. He looks at once nervous and excited. King Theoden breaks away from a column and rides up to him.
Little hobbits do not belong in war, Master Meriadoc.
All my friends have gone to battle. I would be ashamed to be left behind.
It's a 3-day gallop to Minas Tirith. None of my riders can bear you as a burden.
But I want to fight.
I will say no more.
King Theoden wheels his horse away as the mighty Rohirrim on their large horses ride by. A jangling sea of helmets, shields, and banners. Suddenly, Merry is plucked up off the ground. A soldier has snatched him by the collar and plonked him down on their saddle.
Ride with me.
My lady.
Move out! Move out!
Ride! Ride now for Gondor!
Thousands of horsemen ride out after their king. Back on the Pelennor fields, just before Minas Tirith, great siege towers and catapults are rolling across the Pelennor fields. Thousands of flaming torches light the snarling, slathering, mortal orcs, marching in ragged ranks. Flowing torrents of orcs stream past cave trolls, beating the drums of war. Minas Tirith lies ahead, only 2 miles away.
Take the city! Make them fear the orc!
Aragorn leads Legolas and Gimli into a wide cavern. He waves his torch through the darkness, illuminating the huge space. A ghastly creaking noise, like stone being sundered, cuts through the silence. A ghostly figure steps from the rock walls.
Who enters my domain?
One who shall have your allegiance.
The dead do not suffer the living to pass.
You will suffer me.
The fog slowly rolls back, forming a retreating wall of gray vapor. Slowly, rank upon rank of spectral warriors are revealed, ghoulish faces, rusting weapons, tattered banners. The fog reveals a dead army of many thousands assembled around the cavern. Aragorn stares grimly at the king of the dead.
The way is shut. It was made by those who are dead, and the dead keep it. The way is shut. Now you must die.
I summon you to fulfill your oath.
None but the King of Gondor may command me. It cannot be. That line was broken.
It has been remade. Fight for us and regain your honor. What say you? What say you?
You're wasting your time, Aragorn. We had no honor in life, and we have none now in death.
I am Isildur's heir. Fight for me, and I will hold your oath fulfilled. What say you?
Back on the Pelennor fields, thousands of orcs continue moving relentlessly forward, towards the walls of Minas Tirith. From inside, someone yells to open the gate.
Open the gate! Quick!
A huge gate swings open, revealing Faramir's badly wounded horse, dragging Faramir behind him. Both horse and Faramir are impaled with orc arrows.
Lord Faramir!
As catapults are prepared, Gothmog rides through the ranks of orcs. Iorlas and other soldiers arrive at the citadel with Faramir's unconscious body on a stretcher. Pippin follows them. Denethor emerges from the tower wall. He runs towards his son.
Faramir! Say not that he has fallen.
They were outnumbered. None survived.
Fear. The city is rank with it. Let us ease their pain. Release the prisoners.
Catapults.
The orc catapults do not fire rocks. Instead, horror sweeps through the streets of Minas Tirith as the severed heads of Faramir's horsemen land amongst the soldiers with a splat. Denethor looks down at Faramir's unconscious body.
My son is dead. My line is ended.
He's alive.
The House of Stewards has failed.
He needs medicine, my lord.
My line has ended.
My lord!
Denethor gets a full view of the orc army from the very top of Minas Tirith. 75,000 orcs are spread out across the Pelennor fields like a sea of ants. Trolls load the catapults with rocks. Battering rams and siege towers are hauled on chains. Thousands of flickering torches give the army the look of a moving city in the murky Mordor twilight.
Rohan has deserted us. Theoden's betrayed me!
A boulder smashes into the balcony full of civilians. Confusion and panic spread amongst the soldiers.
Abandon your posts! Flee for your lives!
Denethor runs to the highest tower and locks himself within. Gandalf arrives at the battlements on Shadowfax.
Prepare for battle! Return to your posts!
Shadowfax bounds up the stairs onto level 1 of the battlements. Gandalf looks at the approaching orc army, now less than 50 yards from the walls of the city.
Send these foul beasts into the abyss!
Boulders flatten orcs by the tens. Thwat!
Stay where you are!
Suddenly, a Nazgul dives out of the dim sky, clad in battle armor. Soldiers throw themselves down as the Nazgul zoom overhead, emitting their piercing shrieks. Gondorian soldiers run for shelter in panic, covering their ears. Stand to your posts! Do not give in to fear! Fight!
The mighty wooden catapults positioned within the walls of Minas Tirith are fired. The Nazgul circle low over the city, like vultures seeking doomed men's flesh. Soldiers are plucked into the air by shrieking Nazgul and dropped to their deaths hundreds of feet below. Towers and buildings are destroyed. Chaos as soldiers, women, and children dodge falling masonry. Gondorian soldiers send a rain of arrows at the approaching towers and trolls.
Not at the towers! Aim for the trolls! Kill the trolls! Bring them down!
Too late! The towers reach the walls. Their doors crash down, releasing orcs directly onto the lower levels.
Peregrine Took! Go back to the citadel!
They called us out to fight.
This is no place for a hobbit.
Gandalf wields his staff, cutting through the attacking orc with ease. The orc prepares to cut down Gandalf. Pippin instinctively slashes his sword.
Guard of the citadel, indeed. Now, back up the hill quickly. Quickly!
Out of the black swirling smoke of battle crawls an iron monster. A massive wheeled battering ram, 60 feet high and 150 feet long. Pushed by 20 huge mountain trolls, a massive iron head cast in the likeness of a snarling wolf. This is Grond, the battering ram from hell. The orc are chanting as the beast is wheeled closer and closer to the gate.
Back at Cirith Ungol, Gollum, now along with Frodo, leads him up a long ravine between columns of torn and weathered rock. Ahead is a great gray wall, a last huge mass of mountain stone, and in the shadows at the base of the towering rock lies a tunnel. Frodo reacts to the foul stench coming out of the black hole.
What is this place?
Master must go inside the tunnel.
Now that I'm here, I don't think I want to.
It's the only way. Go in or go back.
I can't go back. Oh! What's that smell?
Orcs' filth. Orcs come in here sometimes.
They continue on, deep into the dark tunnel. Frodo feels his way in the dark, following the sound of Gollum's scampering.
Hurry! This way.
Smeagol?
Over here!
Frodo slips as he tries to follow the voice. He puts out his hand to the wall to steady himself, but quickly yanks it away. Strands of white thread stick to his hand.
Oh, it's sticky. What is it?
You will see. Oh, yes. You will see.
Smeagol? Smeagol? Smeagol! Sam.
Frodo, breathing hard, passes all manner of creatures trussed up in evil web-like material. A bubbling hiss can be heard, and there is a creaking as if some great jointed thing moves with slow purpose in the dark. Frodo begins to run in a blind panic. Far below, on the stairs of Cirith Ungol, Sam stumbles blindly down the ancient stairs, reckless and uncaring, his face pale and devastated. Sam's foot slips, and suddenly, as if the ground has given way beneath him, Sam is slipping and sliding, dangerously out of control. He thuds into a large rock, which saves him from tumbling headlong over the precipice. Something catches Sam's eye. He stares, barely breathing. Frodo is running blindly. He falls, trapped in the sticky substance which clings to him. As he lays on the ground, unable to move, a voice comes to him as if from a distant memory.
I give you the light of Arendelle, our most beloved star. May it be a light for you in dark places, when all other lights go out.
Hail Arendelle, brightest of the stars.
The light instantly reveals a huge, loathsome spider towering over Frodo. Shelob the spider hisses at the light. Two great clusters of many-windowed eyes protrude from her bulbous head. Her huge, swollen body, a vast, bloated bag, sways and sags between her legs. Her age-old black hide is knobbly and pitted, blotchy with livid marks, but her belly underneath is pale and luminous. Shelob crawls slowly towards Frodo. Then, with sudden hideous speed, she attacks. Frodo is flung back. The glass phial clatters to the tunnel floor, casting an eerie low light. Shelob squats above Frodo, her eye clusters fidgeting with hideous delight, gloating over a prey trapped beyond all hope of escape. Shelob screams and spasms, a wild blur of thrashing legs. Frodo leaps to his feet and runs, not even pausing to pick up the vial of light. Frodo sees a tunnel exit ahead, jumps just as he runs straight into a giant cobweb.
Naughty little fly, why does it cry? caught in her web, soon you'll be eaten.
Back up the tunnel, lit by the light of Galadriel, Shelob's heaving shadow approaches. Gollum watches it mounting disbelief as Sting slashes through the web. Disbelief quickly turns to fear as Shelob gets closer and closer. Gollum quickly turns and bolts. Frodo hacks at the web with a last desperate lunge, frees himself. Sting is caught in the web. Frodo leaves the sword behind and throws himself through a narrow crevice. Frodo stumbles out of Shelob's lair, tumbling out onto cold rock.
Got away, did it? Not this time! Not this time!
Smeagol, I have to destroy it for both our sakes.
Dangerously close to the edge of the precipice, Gollum tumbles over Frodo's body and falls to the bottom of the ravine. Frodo, overcome with exhaustion, stumbles down the steep stairs of Cirith Ungol.
I'm so sorry, Sam. Oh, sorry.
Frodo lands on soft green grass. He sees sun-drenched images of trees, of fields, of Lothlorien. Galadriel comes towards him, barefoot on the grass.
This task was appointed to you, Frodo of the Shire. If you do not find a way, no one will.
Frodo is lifted to his feet by Galadriel. Once again in the dark, rank tunnels of the pass of Cirith Ungol. He goes on. A deep, resounding boom as Grond thuds against the Minas Tirith gate, sending a vibration running through the city. Gandalf and Shadowfax lead several hundred Gondorian foot soldiers down through the streets.
To the gates! Man the gates!
Within the citadel, Pippin watches as Faramir's unconscious body is carried on a stretcher by Denethor's servants, led by Denethor. It has the atmosphere of a funeral. An iron door creaks open. Faramir's procession enters a wide, vaulted chamber, the tomb of the stewards. The lantern light throws great shadows upon the shrouded walls of a wide, vaulted space, row upon row of marble tombs.
No tomb for Denethor and Faramir. No long, slow sleep of death embalmed. We shall burn like the heathen kings of old.
The servants place Faramir's unconscious body on a stone table in the center of the chamber. They stand heads bowed as mourners beside a bed of death. Denethor turns to his servants.
Bring wood and oil.
A great boom as the gate splinters under Grond's mighty weight. Behind the gates, the Gondorian foot soldiers are fearful. Gandalf rallies the line of bowmen as they wait in front of the great doors, their courage wavering with each crashing blow.
Steady. Steady.
Suddenly, the fearsome head protrudes into Minas Tirith.
You are soldiers of Gondor. No matter what comes through that gate, you will stand your ground.
Within moments, the gate is smashed, and a giant cave troll enters into the first circle of Minas Tirith under the archway that no enemy has ever passed.
Fire!
Rows of archers fire off a volley of arrows, but the trolls continue to smash the foot soldiers with their giant clubs. Orcs swarm through the opening, and the pitched hand-to-hand battle spills into the flames and blackened, smoldering buildings through the streets of Minas Tirith. With a roar, Gandalf leads a counterattack on Shadowfax, followed by several hundred Gondorian foot soldiers. Thousands of orcs swarm into the city through the city gates. The first level is breached. Back in Cirith Ungol, Frodo staggers through a labyrinth of cracks in the mountain. He moves forward, fueled by a grim resolve. Frodo starts climbing a stone staircase that climbs through a narrow pass. Tall peaks rise on either side like pillars holding up a sagging sky. Ahead is the summit of Cirith Ungol and an orc watchtower. A faint light glows from within the stone tower, and a path over the summit is in full view of the orcs. Frodo suddenly senses lurking malice behind him. He spins around. Shelob viciously stabs Frodo in the neck with her monstrous abdominal stinger. Frodo instantly goes limp, and Shelob's legs catch him as he falls. She quickly starts weaving cobwebs around him. With great dexterity, she tumbles the little hobbit over and over in her legs, binding him in web from head to toe.
Let him go, you filth! You will not touch him again. Come on and finish it!
Shelob screams, her mandibles thrashing wildly. Green ooze trickles from her wounded eye. With her hind legs, Shelob picks Sam off the ground and tosses him backwards. Sam lands heavily, and Shelob pounces. Shelob heaves the great bag of her belly high above Sam's head. As she splays her legs to drive her huge bulk down upon him, Sam lifts the elven blade above his head, holding it with 2 hands. Sting slides into Shelob's soft underbelly. Jerking and quivering, Shelob crawls to her hole, leaving a trail of green-yellow slime. She squeezes down the hole and disappears. The sound of her bubbling misery fades.
Frodo. No. Frodo! Mr. Frodo! Wake up! Wake up! Don't leave me here alone. Don't go where I can't follow. Wake up! Not asleep. Dead.
Tramping feet approach, clinking metal, harsh shouts. Sam looks up, looks back down at Frodo. Sam looks up at the orc tower and then at Sting, which is glowing blue. Orcs approach. Sam must make a decision. A small party of orcs and Uruk-hai head down the stairs from the watchtower. Shagrat leads the Uruk-hai and Gorbag leads the orcs.
What's this? Looks like old Shelob's been having a bit of fun.
Killed another one, has she?
No, this fella ain't dead.
Not dead.
She jabs him with her stinger, and they go limp as a boned fish. Then she has her way with them. That's how she likes to feed. Fresh blood. Get him to the tower.
Samwise, you fool.
This fellow will be awake in a few hours.
And then he'll wish he'd never been born.
Back in the Tomb of the Stewards, from the shadows, Pippin watches aghast as Faramir is laying on a funeral pyre. Denethor kisses Faramir's sweating, fevered brow.
Most of his spirit crumbles. He is burning. Already burning.
Bundles of dried firewood are being stacked around Faramir's body. Pippin rushes forward, desperately pulling the firewood away.
He's not dead! He's not dead!
Here now, Peregrine, son of Paladin!
But he's not dead!
I release you from my service. Go now, and die in what way seems best to you.
Denethor slams the door shut.
Pour oil on the wood!
Pippin races down the steep streets, passing soldiers running back from the burning city. Great balls of fire are hurtling through the air. The city is in chaos.
Gandalf! Gandalf!
Pull back! To the second level! Hurry! Get the women and children out of here! Get them out!
Pippin desperately pushes against the tide of soldiers retreating from the fighting. From a distance, he spots Gandalf.
Fight! Fight for your lives!
Above the second gate, a fell beast lands on the archway bearing the Lord of the Nazgul, the Witch King of Angmar, and all flee before his face. All save one. Gandalf remains opposed to him on Shadowfax. Shadowfax, who alone among the free horses of the earth endures the terror, unmoving, steadfast as a graven image.
You cannot enter here. Go back to the abyss prepared for you. Go back. Fall back to the nothingness that awaits you and your master. Go!
Old fool. Old fool. This is my hour. Do you not know death when you see it? Die now and curse in thee.
And with this, he lifts high his sword, and flames run down the blade. Gandalf does not move. And in that moment, away behind in some courtyard of the city, a cockerel crows. Shrill and clear he crows, recking nothing of wizardry or war, welcoming only the morning that in the sky far above the shadows of death was coming with the dawn. As if in answer, there comes from far away another note. Horns, horns, horns. In dark Mount Mindul's sides, they dimly echo. Great horns of the north wildly blowing. Rohan has come at last. The Witch King turns at the sound of the distant horns. 6,000 horsemen led by Theoden and Éomer step up to the skyline. The darkness is breaking too soon. Fortune has betrayed the Nazgul for the moment, and the world has turned against him. Victory is slipping from his grasp even as he stretches out his hand to seize it. King Ringwraith, Lord of the Nazgul, leaves the gate and vanishes into the sky. Above the fields, Theoden's riders observe the battle as thousands of orcs lay siege to Minas Tirith.
Courage, Mary. Courage for our friends.
Form ranks, you maggots! Form ranks! Pikes in front, lances behind!
The orcs prepare for battle. Theoden gallops out in front of his army, issuing urgent orders to his captains.
Éomer, take your Eowyn down the left flank. Gamling, follow the king's banner down the center. Grimbold, take your company right. After we pass the wall, forth, and fear no darkness. Arise, arise, riders of Theoden. Spears shall be shaken, shields shall be splintered. A sword day, a red day ere the sun rises.
A ray of sunlight escapes through the black clouds, bathing the Rohirrim in golden light. Weapons and armor gleam as 6,000 horsemen hold their spears aloft. Below on Pelennor Field, the orcs kneel and raise their lances in readiness. Eowyn has her arm around Mary.
Whatever happens, stay with me. I'll look after you.
As Theoden rides past the ranks of soldiers, he runs his sword along their spears. The noise echoes through the ranks as the weapons of other riders clatter in response.
Ride now! Ride now! Ride! Ride for ruin and the world's ending! Death! 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 Forth, the Eorlings!
The 6,000 Rohirrim move off, a great wall of horses and spear points building up to a gallop like a rising tide as they charge towards the 50,000 orcs. Merry wind blowing in his hair, Eowyn's arm around his chest. He yells at the top of his lungs. Gothmog marshals his troops.
Fire!
The first volley of arrows hit the Rohan soldiers. The charge continues.
Charge!
The second volley. Gothmog watches in horrified awe as the Rohirrim advance continues. The Rohirrim charge like men possessed. The wall of Rohirrim sword horses and spears is seemingly unstoppable. Entire orc companies vanish under their hooves like sand beneath a foaming great as they race toward the main body of the orc army. Suddenly, the Rohirrim crash into the orcs, and there is much hacking, slashing of swords and clashing of shields. Back to the walls of the city, Pippin rushes towards Gandalf, dodging flaming debris.
Gandalf! Denethor has lost his mind. He's burning Faramir alive!
Come, quickly!
Within the tomb, Denethor stands on the table astride Faramir, pouring oil over his own head. It runs through his hair and down his face, quickly soaking his robes.
Set a fire in our flesh!
Servants holding flaming torches awaiting their orders. Denethor nods to them, and the servants approach the pyre, torches held firmly. At that moment, Gandalf and Pippin burst into the Hallows astride Shadowfax.
Stay this madness!
With a roar, Denethor snatches a flaming torch and hurls it at the pyre. The pyre ignites. Gandalf gallops towards it, knocking Denethor off of his feet. Pippin leaps from Shadowfax onto the burning pyre, and with desperate strength, he pushes Faramir off of the fire. They tumble off of the bundles of wood onto the floor.
No! Do not take my son from me!
Denethor leaps across the pyre, ripping and tugging at Pippin. Fire quickly spreads up Denethor's oil-soaked back as he hauls Pippin off of Faramir. Shadowfax rears up and strikes at Denethor, who falls back onto the pyre.
Faramir.
Flames begin to engulf Denethor. Gandalf pulls Pippin to safety, and they look on in horror as suddenly Denethor lurches off of the pyre, now a screaming, unguided ball of flame, and he runs across the chamber, disappearing out of the door.
So passes Denethor, son of Ecthelion.
Denethor runs across the white court atop Minas Tirith and plummets straight over the 700-foot sheer drop into the flaming city below. Out in the field, the Rohirrim gain the upper hand. Vast numbers of orcs are slain or are fleeing as they forward.
Drive them into the river!
Make safe the city!
The battle comes. 20 Mumakil, massive elephant-like creatures, each carrying a war tower packed with Haladrin's archers. Theoden on his horse circles amongst the Rohirrim riders.
Reform the line! Reform the line! Sound the charge! Charge!
Rohirrim riders charge toward the line of Mumakil. The Mumakil bellow as they are goaded into war and driven mercilessly by their brutal Haradrim masters. They lumber into the sea of men, crushing riders and horses alike beneath their massive feet. Their spiked tusks swing wildly, sweeping and impaling riders. Haradrim archers send down a rain of arrows into the panicking Rohirrim. Meanwhile, within Minas Tirith, on the 6th level of the city, smoke rises around it. Fires burn beneath it. A pound on its wooden doors with huge hammers, a rabble of orcs clustered outside the gate, trolls hitting at the doors. Wood splinters. The doors are near their breaking point. Gandalf and Pippin sit on stone steps, both covered in sweat and grime, bone-weary from fighting, spirits and hearts bruised.
Didn't think it would end this way.
End? No, the journey doesn't end here. Death is just another path, one that we all must take. The grey rain curtain of this world rolls back, and all turns to silver glass. And then you see it.
What, Gandalf? See what?
White shores, and beyond, a far green country under a swift sunrise.
Well, that isn't so bad.
No. No, it isn't.
Boom! Gandalf and Pippin's faces turn as the wooden doors shudder under another blow. Back on the Pelennor fields, the battlefield is in chaos as Mumakil crush the valiant Rohirrim. Theoden tries to rally his men amid a sea of crying and neighing horses.
Rally to me! To me!
Suddenly, the Witch King swoops down on his fell beast, scooping up Theoden and his horse. They cartwheel into the air and land in a heap. The horse is dead. Theoden's body lies broken beneath it. The Witch King's fell beast lands on Theoden's dead horse.
Feast on his flesh.
I will kill you if you touch him.
The fell beast cranes its long neck to finish Theoden off. Suddenly, with a mighty sword blow, the fell beast's head is severed. The huge creature crumples to the ground, vast wings outstretched, sending the Witch King sprawling. The Witch King rises out of the wreckage, tall and threatening. Eowyn stands before him, the fell beast's blood dripping down her sword. With a shrill shriek of hatred, he knocks Eowyn backwards with his mace. Stunned, Eowyn tries to stand, and is hit once again with another crippling blow. And with that, we will be back with the thrilling conclusion of The Return of the King. And now we return to The Return of the King, Part 2. Back in the story, Gothmog's orc lieutenant comes astride and hurries onto the Anduin River docks close to the city. Large black shadows slide across the docks, and as sailing ships approach, a sinister black sailing ship glides in. 9 other corsair ships follow close behind.
Late as usual. Get off your ships, you sea rats! There's knife work here needs doing.
Aragorn leaps from the leading ship. He is followed by Legolas and Gimli. The orcs smile and laugh at the 3 warriors facing off, charging towards thousands of orcs. The 3 hunters draw their weapons.
Plenty for the both of us. May the best dwarf win!
Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli charge across the docks, roaring at the top of their lungs. Behind them, the army of the dead suddenly leaps straight out of the sides of the ships. They charge across the surface of the water with frightening speed, overtaking Aragorn. The orcs scream at the sight of the 5,000 spectral warriors. The army of the dead swarms into the flank of the orc army. With raging bloodlust, the undead climb over the top of each other, trying to reach the enemy, creating a kind of rolling mountain ghouls that sweep all before them away. The orcs have no defense, as their weapons cannot make contact with the ghosts. Across the battlefield, Merry watches as the Witch King looms over Eowyn.
You fool! No man can kill me. Die now.
I am no man.
The Witch King topples back, his armor disintegrating like his Morgul blade after stabbing Frodo. A shuddering cry fades into a shrill and passes into the wind. Across the battlefield, Legolas jumps onto the back of a giant Mumakil. He empties 12 arrows at once into its thick neck, bringing it down. He lands on his feet in front of Gimli.
Oh, that still only counts as 1!
The tides of battle begin to turn. The Mumakil react with terror as spectral warriors climb up their sides, routing the Haradrim from their war towers. Orcs flee in thousands, the terrified Mumakil trampling them under their panic to escape. The army of the dead swarms over the city, routing the orcs from every crevice. Eowyn crawls to where Theoden lies, mortally wounded.
I know your face. Eowyn.
I love to think that there's more out there.
My eyes dark.
To believe 'cause I haven't
No.
seen.
I'm going to save you.
You already have. My body is broken. You have to let me go.
No.
If I go, don't wanna go it alone.
I go to my father's,
So I'm wondering,
in whose mighty company I shall not now feel ashamed.
and if I make it to,
Eowyn!
if I make it to another land.
The Pelennor fields lie strangely silent. All orcs have fled. Battle debris and bodies stretch as far as the eye can see. Above Minas Tirith, blinding sun rays break through the low clouds. Gandalf, Legolas, Gimli, and Pippin watch as Aragorn slowly walks across the field of battle towards the hideous ghouls.
Release us!
Oh, bad idea. Very handy in a tight spot, these lads. Despite the fact that they're dead.
You gave us your word!
I hold your oath fulfilled. Go. Be at peace.
The army of the dead slowly dissolve into dust and are immediately swept away by the four winds. Pippin, in his Gondorian armor, looks around at the devastation, his eyes full of sadness. They suddenly fix on something. Pippin runs through the ruin of the battle towards a small figure slumped on the ground.
Mary? Mary! It's me! It's Pippin!
I knew you'd find me. Are you going to leave me?
No, Mary. I'm going to look after you.
Not too far away, we see the dark tower of Cirith Ungol. A light glows from the topmost window. Within a small, cold room, Frodo Baggins is unconscious on the floor. His eyes suddenly flicker, and he wakes up. The orc and Uruk-hai, Gorbag and Shagrat argue over Frodo's belongings and clothes. Gorbag snatches for the mithril vest.
Hey, hands off! That shiny shirt, that's mine!
It's going to the Great Eye, along with everything else.
I don't take orders from stinking Morgul rats!
You touch it, and I'll stick this blade in your guts!
Gorbag draws his sword, but Shagrat kicks him backwards with his foot.
Ah!
Gorbag falls through a trap door leading to the floor below. Gorbag lands in the guard room with a crash, creating sudden alarm among the orcs and Uruk-hai stationed there. Shagrat leans through the trap door.
That scum tried to knife me! Kill him!
Several Uruk-hai converge on Gorbag. He lashes out, slashing one across the throat with his sword. The dead Uruk-hai topples backwards towards the parapet and falls over, landing on top of Uruk-hai and orcs in the courtyard below. Within moments, a brutal civil war breaks out between the two companies stationed in Cirith Ungol. Sam pounds up the staircase, leaping over orc corpses. Suddenly pauses. Several Uruk-hai are running down towards him. He grips Sting and continues charging up, screaming at the top of his lungs. The three Uruks see a huge, distorted shadow on the wall in front of them. They turn around and flee in terror back to the top of the stairs. Sam appears, and before the Uruk-hai can fully regain their wits, he slays them, yelling,
That's for Frodo! And that's for the Shire! And that's for my old gaffer!
Frodo struggles against his bonds as Gorbag climbs back into the room with vengeance in his evil eyes.
Stop your squeaking, you dunghill rats! I'm gonna bleed you like a stuck pig!
Not if I stick you first!
Oh, Sam! I'm so sorry. Sorry for everything.
Come on.
Sam, it's too late. It's over. They've taken it. Sam, they took the ring.
Begging your pardon, but they haven't. I thought I'd lost you, so I took it, only for safekeeping.
Give me the ring, Sam. Sam. You must understand. The ring is my burden. It will destroy you, Sam.
Come on, Mr. Frodo. We'd best find you some clothes. You can't go walking through Mordor and not but your skin.
Frodo and Sam are now dressed in foul-looking orc gear. They turn east and walk over the summit of Cirith Ungol into Mordor. They stop dead, staring ahead, Mount Doom, 50 miles away. Across the barren Gorgoroth Plateau, the mountain erupts streams of ash and lava high into the air, lighting the low cloud blanket of Mordor with a flickering orange wash.
We did it, Mr. Frodo. We made it to Mordor.
Frodo's eyes travel down towards the hundreds of fires which glow on the plains beneath them. Thousands upon thousands of orcs are encamped there.
There's so many of them. So many. We'll never get through unseen.
Their eyes are drawn to a dark, looming shape. Barad-dûr. A red light seems to sweep across the plain.
It's him. The eye.
We have to go in there, Mr. Frodo. There's nothing for it. Come on. Let's just make it down the hill, for starters.
In Minas Tirith, Gandalf stands in the tower hall, seemingly alone. He speaks quietly.
Frodo has passed beyond my sight. The darkness is deepening.
He turns and crosses the hall to reveal the presence of Gimli, Legolas, Éomer, and Aragorn.
If Sauron had the ring, we would know it.
It's only a matter of time. He has suffered a defeat, yes, but behind the walls of Mordor, our enemy is regrouping.
Let him stay there. Let him rot. Why should we care?
Because 10,000 orcs now stand between Frodo and Mount Doom. I've sent him to his death.
No. There's still hope for Frodo. He needs time and safe passage across the plains of Gorgoroth. We can give him that.
How?
Draw out Sauron's armies, empty his lands, then we gather our full strength and march on the Black Gate.
We cannot achieve victory through strength of arms.
Not for ourselves, but we can give Frodo his chance if we keep Sauron's eye fixed upon us. Keep him blind to all else that moves.
A diversion.
Sauron will suspect a trap. He will not take the bait.
Certainty of death. Small chance for success. What are we waiting for?
The armies of the West return to the Pelennor fields once more, this time on the offensive rather than playing the defenders. Aragorn wears a breastplate emblazoned with the white tree. He rides at the head of a column of 500 foot soldiers from Rohan and Gondor, leading them from the ruins of Osgiliath. The mountains of Mordor loom over them. Great armies of orcs and Uruk-hai stream across the plains from Mordor. Frodo and Sam, still disguised in the orc armor, slide down a scree bank and land on the road below. Their attention is fixed on the plain below them. Thousands of orcs can be seen marching away from Mount Doom.
Look, the orcs. They're moving off. You see, Mr. Frodo. Some luck at last.
Frodo and Sam move across a hellish, dry landscape of twisted volcanic rock and steaming fissures. Miles away, Mount Doom rises out of the plain, its feet founded in ashen ruin, its huge cone rising to a great height, where its reeking head is swathed in cloud. Aragorn's force approaches the great black gate of Mordor. He positions his troops about a half a mile from the gates. Within Mordor, Frodo slumps against a rock.
Take mine.
Maybe none left for the return journey.
I don't think there will be a return journey, Mr. Frodo.
Frodo and Sam stagger across the tortured landscape. They are no longer wearing the orc armor, too heavy. Frodo walks half-bowed, often stumbling, as if his eyes can no longer see the way before his feet. A ray of red light stabs through the gloom and begins to sweep over the barren landscape.
Frodo, get down!
Sam throws himself to the ground, and Frodo turns to the light, unable to stop himself. Frodo crumples to the ground as the red light hits him like a searchlight. Back on the fields, Aragorn's forces wait. All is quiet. No sign of the enemy.
Where are they?
Aragorn, Gandalf, Legolas, Gimli, Éomer, Merry, and Pippin gallop toward the Black Gates. They pull up less than 50 yards from the towering gates.
Let the Lord of Mordor come forth. Let justice be done upon him.
From behind the huge gates, the terrifying chanting and clanging of armor of thousands responds. With a sound of tortured metal, the massive gate begins to open. Legolas, Merry, and Éomer look on in trepidation. Within Mordor, with the eye of Sauron sweeping the plains around them, Sam gets to his feet. The gate finally swings open, and Sauron's army of 10,000 orcs march out towards Aragorn.
Pull back! Pull back!
Aragorn, Gandalf, Legolas, Gimli, Éomer, Merry, and Pippin gallop back towards their small army as the orc masses slowly march toward them. Behind them, the eye of Sauron is directed towards them, no longer hunting Frodo and Sam.
It's gone, Mr. Frodo. The light's passed on, away towards the north. Something's drawn its gaze.
The massive orc army marches towards Aragorn's men. The orcs encircle them. Some men are backing away, losing their nerve.
Hold your ground! Hold your ground! Sons of Gondor, of Rohan, my brothers! I see in your eyes the same fear that would take the heart of me. A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day. An hour of wolves and shattered shields, when the age of men comes crashing down. But it is not this day. This day we fight. By all that you hold dear on this good earth, I bid you stand, men of the West!
Frodo and Sam climb the face of Mount Doom. The landscape is violent. Red heat hisses out of fissures. The rock is jagged, razor sharp. Ash blankets the land. Red lightning forks across the sky with a deafening crack. Frodo and Sam's feet drag across the ash, their parched lips, sweating, dusty faces. Frodo trips and falls face first into the dust. Sam drops down beside him. Frodo starts to crawl on his hands and knees. He hauls himself a few pitiful feet before slumping back into the ash. Back at the Black Gate, Gimli surveys the army of Mordor.
I never thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
I could do that.
Sam crawls to Frodo, who lies slumped against the rock face. He turns him over, holding him in his arms.
Do you remember the Shire, Mr. Frodo? It'll be spring soon, and the orchards will be in blossom. and the birds will be nesting in the hazel thicket, and they'll be sowing the summer barley in the lower fields, and eating the first of the strawberries with cream. Do you remember the taste of strawberries?
No, Sam. I don't recall the taste of food, nor the sound of water, nor the touch of grass. I'm naked in the dark. There's no veil between me and the real fire. I can see him with my waiting.
Then let us be rid of it, once and for all. Come on, Mr. Frodo. I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. Come on!
With that, Sam lifts Frodo onto his shoulders and starts to climb Mount Doom, Frodo on his back. Aragorn and company watch as they are surrounded by a tide of orcs. Aragorn raises Anduril in a broad sweep as he walks forward. He turns to face the others, quiet resolve written on his face, as he looks into the eyes of the remaining members of the Fellowship.
For Frodo.
Aragorn turns, sword raised, and he charges forward. There is a moment of silence. No one else moves. And suddenly a shout goes up. Pippin and Merry charge forward, the rest of the men following. Aragorn crashes head-on into a line of orcs. The blade of Anduril flashes as Aragorn hacks at orcs. Meanwhile, like a small grey insect, Sam creeps up the slope of Mount Doom with Frodo on his back, foot by foot. The mantling cloud swirls, revealing the cruel pinnacles and iron crown of Barad-dûr, the dark tower in the distance. Sam staggers under Frodo's weight. Strong, ash-laden winds buffet him as he slowly climbs Mount Doom. A tremor ripples through the ground. A red flame explodes into the sky. Sam looks up, fearful the mountain could explode at any moment. Through the thick, fume-laden air, a set of stairs can be made out.
Look, Mr. Frodo! Stairs!
Clever hobbits to climb so high!
Smack! Out of nowhere, the figure of Smeagol crashes onto them, sending Sam and Frodo sprawling. Smeagol pounces on Frodo, his fingers wrapping around his throat, snapping Frodo's neck from side to side. Frodo struggles to unlock the bony, white fingers from around his neck, but Smeagol's grip is too strong. Thwack! Sam jumps on a stunned Smeagol. Frodo comes to. All of the old hatred between Sam and Smeagol boils over as they fight. Sam falls back, Smeagol bites at his shoulder. Sam pushes Smeagol to his feet, rolls up to his knees as Smeagol charges him. Sam slashes out with sting and cuts Smeagol across the stomach. Smeagol staggers back, screaming in pain. Sam looks around desperately for Frodo.
Frodo!
Frodo has started running up the side of the mountain. The battle between men and orcs rages on. From Mordor, high overhead, the remaining Nazgûl fly out into the fray. A hideous screech rends the air. Gandalf looks up to a Nazgûl diving straight toward him. His eyes flicker as a small moth flutters across his line of sight. Another cry rends the air as smack! The giant eagle, Gwaihir, smashes into the fell beast, its claws ripping into the hideous monster's neck.
Eagles! The eagles are coming! The eagles are coming!
The eagles engage the Nazgûl. At the door of Samath Naur, Sam is gasping, his lungs exploding as he races up the slopes of Mount Doom searching for Frodo. Sam arrives at the stone doorway leading into the mountain. Sam flinches against the fierce heat blasting down the tunnel.
Frodo!
Frodo is standing on the edge of the crack of doom, a deep, lava-filled chasm in the very heart of ancient Sauron's forges, the greatest in Middle-earth. The raging orange glare from the chasm turns Frodo into a black silhouette, standing tense and still.
I'm here, Sam.
Destroy it! Go on! Throw it in the fire! What are you waiting for? Just let it go!
The ring is mine.
No!
With a storm of wings, the Nazgul wheel around and hurtle towards Mount Doom. Inside, footprints move across the ash-covered cavern floor. Suddenly, Gollum smashes a rock down on Sam's head, knocking him to the ground. Gollum leaps to the invisible Frodo. Frodo's footprints stagger about underneath them as Gollum's weight hits him full force. Gollum claws frantically, riding on his back of the invisible Frodo. Gollum suddenly lifts his hands to his face and bites hard. Frodo materializes as he drops to his knees, clutching his bleeding hands and screams. Gollum triumphantly holds the ring aloft, ecstatic. Gollum dances gleefully to the edge of the castle.
Brussels! Brussels! Brussels!
Frodo thuds into Gollum, lifting him up to his feet. They lock in a struggle and plummet over the edge of the chasm. Sam watches in horror as Frodo and Gollum disappear over the side. He staggers over. Gollum falls into the crack of doom, instantly engulfed in the churning lava. Sam leans into the crack and sees Frodo clinging onto the rock face with his one good hand. The caverns shake violently. Sam desperately reaches for Frodo, but he's too far down.
Give me your hand! Take my hand! No! Don't you let go, don't let go! Reach!
The ring sits on the river of lava for a brief moment, its words illuminated, and then it is swallowed. The eye of Sauron strains as it watches Mount Doom implode. On the battlefield, all eyes turn towards the mountain. The cave troll that Aragorn has at his mercy is distracted by the sounds emanating from Mordor. He turns in terror and runs off. The Fellowship turns to watch as the massive dark tower of Sauron shakes itself into pieces. Towers fall and walls crumble. Vast spires of smoke and spouting steam billow up. The foundations explode apart. The black gates collapse in a huge cloud of ash. The orcs flee in all directions as the very foundations of Mordor collapse. The company watches as Mount Doom explodes. The volcano erupts, fire belching from its ribbon summit, sending lava streaming down its sides. Frodo and Sam stagger out of the Samath Naur door. All around, ash and molten rocks fly and fall. The skies burst into thunder, seared with lightning. The screaming Nazgul fall from the sky and plummet into the flames. The ground is shaking so violently that Frodo and Sam can barely stand.
It's gone. It's done. Yes, Mr. Frodo. It's over now.
Frodo remembers the Shire.
Gandalf's fireworks. Lights in the party tree.
Rosy cotton dancing. She had ribbons in her hair. If ever I was to marry someone, it would have been her. It would have been her.
I'm glad to be with you, Samwise Gamgee. Here at the end of all things.
The two tiny hobbits wait to die amid a cataclysmic landscape, lava erupting around them. fireballs raining down from the sky. Then, Gwaihir, the great eagle, appears above them. He bears Gandalf on his back and is followed by 2 more eagles. The eagles bravely fly amid the raining ash and molten rocks. They snatch Frodo and Sam from the brink of destruction off of the rock face.
Gandalf?
Sweeping over the Minas Tirith walls, racing towards the top of the city, through a blizzard of white flower petals. Minas Tirith is restored. It gleams white in the bright sun. The court of the kings, crowded with 4,000 people, cramming the wide path leading to the tower hall. The crown of Gondor glints in the brilliant sunshine.
Now come the days of the king. May they be blessed.
This day does not belong to one man, but to all. Let us together rebuild this world, that we may share in the days of peace. Et erelo endorenna utulian, sinome maruven hildin arten, and marmeta.
Aragorn sings for his people, and then walks in slow procession down the white paved path as the crowd bow their heads in respect to their new king. Aragorn passes Eowyn and Faramir, who bow before him. Éomer steps forward to bow in respect. Trumpets sound as a procession of elves, dressed in shimmering silvers and whites, led by Legolas, approach the king.
Henon lay.
A banner carried aloft bearing the white tree of Gondor in full flower. The ranks of elves part, revealing Arwen. Aragorn and Arwen walk through the crowd toward 4 small figures who stand nervously at the end of the avenue. The 4 hobbits bow before the king.
My friends, you bow to no one.
And thus it was, a 4th age of Middle-earth began, and the Fellowship of the Ring, though eternally bound by friendship and love, was ended.
13 months to the day since Gandalf sent us on our long journey. We found ourselves looking upon a familiar sight. We were home.
Hobbiton is bathed in a warm sunset, as Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin ride on ponies, past Odo Proudfoot, who shakes his head at the strangeness of their appearance. Within the Green Dragon, Frodo brings a round of drinks to the table. Nearby, a huge fuss is being made over a large pumpkin, which has been brought in to be shown off. The 4 friends look at each other. A world of experience now separates them from their fellow hobbits. Seated at a long table, the 4 friends raise their glasses, and Sam's eye is suddenly caught by Rosie Cotton, who is serving beer behind the bar. Sam steels himself and leaves to go talk to Rosie. Frodo, Merry, and Pippin exchange smiles. And then, on a beautiful sunny day, Sam and Rosie are married, with their dearest friends gathered around them. Rosie throws a beautiful bouquet of flowers, and it's caught by Pippin, who smiles in embarrassment.
How do you pick up the threads of an old life? How do you go on when, in your heart, you begin to understand? There's no going back. There's some things that time cannot mend. Some hurts that go too deep that have taken hold.
Frodo writes in the last chapters in careful, neat handwriting. Frodo turns back the pages, revealing There and Back Again, A Hobbit's Tale by Bilbo Baggins. He writes below it as Sam Gamgee calls out from the door.
Mr. Frodo? What is it?
It's been 4 years to the day since Weathertop, Sam. It's never really healed.
There and Back Again, A Hobbit's Tale by Bilbo Baggins. And The Lord of the Rings by Frodo Baggins. You've finished it.
Not quite. There's room for a little more.
In the Hobbiton fields, on a cold winter's morning, out of the fog rattles a small covered wagon. Gandalf is at the reins. Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin are waiting on ponies for the wagon. All are wearing their grey elven robes.
Bilbo once told me the great stories never end, that each of us must come and go in the telling. His part in this tale was now over. There would be no more journeys for Bilbo, save one.
Gandalf arrives in his cart. The wagon trundles along at a sedate pace. Sam, Merry, and Pippin ride behind, leading Frodo's empty pony.
Tell me again, lad, where are we going?
To the harbour, Bilbo. The elves have accorded you a special honour. A place on the last ship to leave Middle-earth.
Frodo is sitting in the wagon, his arm around his Uncle Bilbo.
Frodo, any chance of seeing that old ring of mine? The one I gave you?
Sorry, Uncle, I'm afraid I lost it.
Oh, pity. I should have liked to have held it one last time.
Frodo walks arm in arm with Bilbo through a beautiful elven boathouse. Gandalf follows with Merry, Pippin, and Sam.
Oh. Well, here's a sight I've never seen before.
Bilbo sees a white ship ready to depart from a white stone dock. Elrond and Galadriel are waiting for them. The setting sun slowly drops behind the sea, visible between the headlands of a beautiful inlet. The sun streams through the sails, casting an ethereal glow on the group as they walk onto the dock.
The power of the 3 rings is ended. The time has come for the dominion of men.
I can ven namar.
I think I'm quite ready for another adventure.
Bilbo walks down toward the boat and boards with Elrond.
Farewell, my brave hobbits. My work is now finished. Here at last, on the shores of the sea, comes the end of our fellowship. I will not say, do not weep, for not all tears are an evil.
Gandalf turns and walks away. Frodo is downcast. Suddenly Gandalf turns and looks towards him.
It is time, Frodo.
Gandalf looks to Frodo, then turns and slowly walks toward the gangplank to board the ship.
What does he mean?
We set out to save the Shire, and it has been saved. But not for me.
You don't mean that. You can't leave.
The last pages are for you, Sam.
Frodo hugs Merry, and then Pippin, and last of all, Sam. And then he climbs on board the ship. The white boat sails away toward the headlands, disappearing into the golden light of the setting sun. Sam walks up the path towards his house. A little girl toddles up to meet him.
Eleanor!
My dear Sam, you cannot always be torn in two. You have to be the one and whole for many years. You have so much to enjoy and to be and to do. Because, Sam, your part in the journey goes on.
Rosie Cotton steps up and kisses Sam on the cheek. She gives him a tiny baby boy to cradle.
Hello, little Frodo. Well, I'm back.
Sam and Rosie take the children's hands and enter shot. The bright yellow doorway closes behind them. The end.
Thank you everyone for watching our performance of Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. We would like to thank the cast and crew of the original films, as well as our family and friends who have supported us as we have brought Middle-earth to your screen. Tonight's performance included Ian Runge and Zoe Yale as Aragorn and Arwen, Lucia Fasano and Thomas Anawalt as Frodo and Sam, Michelle Wicklas and Henry Mortensen as Eowyn and Éomer, J.D. Zellman and Dennis Renard as Gimli and Legolas, John Cody Fasano as Gandalf and Gollum, Peter Mazzio as Merry, and myself, Malin Alter, as Pippin, Tiana Randall Quaint and Jono Eiland as Galadriel and Elrond, Todd Elliott and Breon Bliss as Theoden and Denethor, James Truman and Kyle McCormick as Gamling and Bilbo, Gray Shearholt and Tom DeQueer as Faramir and Gothmog, Ben Birmingham as the Witch King, with a special appearance by Alyssa Dorn, and narrated by Taylor Jackson Ross. If you would like to see more from us, please comment on this video, and stay tuned for... Wait, hold on a second. We're getting some sort of transmission. That is so weird.
I find thy lack of faith disturbing.